WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Abidjan, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. This is Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegal's National Assembly, by a majority vote, adopt a bill to strengthen penalties against homosexuality.
The classification of the offense allows courts to sentence those found guilty of acts considered unnatural.
One person sustains gunshot wound as Liberia and Guinea border dispute escalates.
We are recommending that the border points remain closed until Senegal government can handle these matters.
Ghana and South Korea signed 3 strategic agreements, including on maritime security, and armed attacks against military formations surge in countries of West Africa such as Nigeria, Niger, and Benin. Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Abdullahi Hassan.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Here in Senegal, lawmakers on Wednesday adopted a bill strengthening penalties for acts described as against nature. The reform amends Article 319 of the Penal Code, notably doubling prison sentences for same-sex relations. The vote comes at a time when the country is intensifying a crackdown on homosexuality. Christopher Ticho reports.
Senegal's National Assembly has adopted the draft law by an overwhelming majority. Out of 138 lawmakers who voted, 135 supported the bill, while 3 abstained and none voted against it. However, some opposition lawmakers had hoped the legislation will go further by fully criminalizing acts described as against nature. Among them is Independent Member of Parliament Chiano Alassane Sow, who voiced his position.
I
will not vote for your law because it is a law of deception. It is a law meant to mislead. You cannot keep manipulating the people or deceiving them. You cannot continue claiming that yesterday Senegal was a land of sin, that God's wrath would fall here, and then bring back the same laws. You, who accused Macky Sall, tolerated when Prime Minister Sonko said homosexuality was tolerated here. Where were you then? Who claimed to oppose homosexuality? The hypocrisy I see here is killing me.
The Senegalese government was represented during the debate by Interior Minister Mohamedou Bamba Cissé, who said maintaining the offense as a misdemeanor while increasing penalties was the most appropriate option.
The classification of the offense allows cases to be processed quickly and enables courts to sentence those found guilty of acts considered unnatural to a minimum of 5 years in prison, with penalties that can go up to 10 years. Which is the maximum. Some people continue to debate whether the act should be fully criminalized, but supporters argue that the current law is the most appropriate option available.
The law also introduces criminal penalties for promoting or financing homosexuality in Senegal. It now awaits promulgation by President Bassirou Diomaye Faye.
Christopher Ticho reporting there. In Côte d'Ivoire, 4 lawmakers have suspended their participation in the PDCI-RDA parliamentary group. In a letter, the signatories say their decision is based on personal reasons. They also stressed that the move does not mean they are leaving the opposition party, but only suspending their activities within the parliamentary group. Augustine Kole tells us more.
In a letter addressed to the political bureau of the PDCI, the elected officials reaffirmed their loyalty to the opposition party. Despite these assurances, some voices within the party have criticized the move. One party member, speaking anonymously, says the action goes against the principles of discipline and cohesion that guide the political formation.
This is an internal battle. Some of these individuals were seeking positions such as Questor, Vice President, or membership in the National Assembly Bureau. Today, within the PDCI, personal interests and ambitions seem to be taking priority. That needs to stop, and members should respect the commitment made to the party president.
Political analyst Nouridine Oyeoli believes the situation may reflect deeper tensions within Côte d'Ivoire's main opposition party. He says the episode should prompt the party to reflect on its internal governance and political future.
There are concerns that the departure from the PDCI parliamentary group could accelerate in the coming days. According to some reports, around 10 lawmakers may be considering leaving the group. If that happens, it could increase pressure on the party leadership to convene a major internal meeting, perhaps a political bureau, to openly discuss the party's future. Many see this move as a way of pressuring the leadership to reconsider its current strategy.
Observers say the suspension comes at a time when questions are already being raised about the internal dynamics of the PDCRRDA. It remains to be seen whether the provisional measure will lead to internal dialogue and calm tensions or signal further turbulence within Côte d'Ivoire's oldest political party.
A report by WADR's Marcel Ariston-Blay in Abidjan and voiced by Augustin Collet. More on parliamentary matters, the House of Representatives in Nigeria has called on the federal government to reverse its blanket ban on recognizing university degrees obtained from Benin and Togo. Lawmakers say the policy should be reviewed to avoid penalizing Nigerians who obtained legitimate qualifications from accredited institutions in the two countries. For more on this, let's join Ichin Sasetu.
The House of Representatives is urging the federal government to rescind its blanket invalidation of degree certificates obtained from Benin Republic and Togo. The resolution followed the consideration and adoption of a report by the House Committee on Public Petitions after complaints from affected Nigerians and stakeholders over the policy. Lawmaker Beatrice Lowry, who raised the matter, stated that the ban has affected the livelihoods of some Nigerians.
A lot of thousands of young people are being affected. Some have lost their jobs. Some are being asked to stop until this decision is making. And this committee even have to write several ministries to say, look, this matter is before the House. Wait for the decision of the House before you take any action.
Lawmakers say instead of a sweeping ban, the federal government should adopt a case-by-case verification system to identify and punish cases of academic fraud. According to the House, such an approach would address concerns about fake certificates without unfairly affecting Nigerians who obtained genuine degrees from accredited universities in the two West African countries. They further urged the Ministry of Information and the National Orientation Agency to intensify public awareness campaigns to educate Nigerians on how to verify the accreditation status of foreign institutions and obtain equivalent certification where necessary. For the WADR, Yechini Sasetu in Abuja.
Away from Nigeria, a nationwide polio vaccination campaign is kicking off this Thursday in Togo. The campaign will run until March 18 and will cover the entire country. Health authorities aim to vaccinate around 1.8 million children as part of efforts to prevent the spread of the disease. Togo had previously eliminated polio, but a new case was detected on February 20 in the Mo Health District near the border with Benin. The discovery prompted authorities to quickly organize this large-scale immunization drive. The lead coordinator of the exercise will join us later in the news.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
As a reminder, we stream live at wadr.org and we are live on YouTube. Turning to electoral matters, the Independent Electoral Commission of the Gambia has convened its monthly stakeholder meeting as part of ongoing preparations for the upcoming electoral activities in the country. The meeting brought together representatives from various sectors to review preparations, discuss key electoral issues, and address emerging concerns ahead of the next supplementary voter registration exercise. According to the electoral umpire, the exercise will begin on April 8 and continue through May 21, 2026. However, one of the issues highlighted during the discussion was the attestation requirement in the voter registration process. From Banjul, Santana Mendy reports.
Participants say the attestation requirement for voter registration can sometimes be unfair and may create difficulties for people trying to register. They know that during almost every election cycle, there are complaints that village heads, known as alcalos, issue attestations to individuals who may not meet the eligibility criteria. One of the participants, Lamin Mane, shared his concerns.
How do you have the alcalo of a main area, Serekunda, Rachikunda, Bundu, whatever, know all the people in there? It's not possible. So the attestations are inherently problematic.
Responding to the issue, the chairman of the Independent Electoral Commission, Joseph Colley, said applicants who present valid documents would be registered without difficulty.
If any applicant comes with a valid document, whether it's attestation, whether it's passport, whether it's ID card or it's birth certificate, we don't have right to question but to register.
Another concern raised was about gender representation, as only one woman was among the principal officers presented by the Commission. The issue prompted questions about gender balance within the Commission's leadership, an issue Chairman Colley addressed.
We have only one female, yes, as principal, but we're working. We've not announced the others. You know, the principal registration officers are there, but we also have their assistants.
The supplementary voter registration exercise aims to allow newly eligible voters as well as Gambians who missed the 2021 registration to be included in the national voter registration. The Commission says about 100 registration teams made up of more than 400 personnel will be deployed across the country to carry out the exercise. With the 2026 elections approaching, eligible citizens are being encouraged to register. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, tensions along the Liberia-Guinea border escalated on Wednesday after a Liberian citizen was reportedly shot by Guinean troops during a confrontation. The incident follows renewed territorial dispute between the two neighboring countries, raising concerns about stability in the Mano River Union region. Guinea is claiming ownership of a piece of land on Liberian territory near the Solumba port of entry in Lofa County. The violence comes even as authorities in Monrovia and Conakry hold diplomatic talks with resolution expected in the coming days. WADR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Tensions escalated along the Liberia-Guinea border on Wednesday after Guinean soldiers fired gunshots. According to local sources, the incident began when Guinean troops returned to the disputed area early in the morning and rehosted their national flag, triggering a confrontation. During the clash, a 44-year-old Liberian citizen, Edward Libibi, was reportedly shot, as confirmed by Foya District Commissioner Yamena Saish.
Guineans were still advancing, trying to cross to reclaim the side of Liberia, and the soldiers shoot across, but despite the Liberians' surveillance, it was how the border hit one of our citizens.
In response, anti-Liberian police officers have been deployed to the area to maintain order and protect the residents. The head of the Liberian security dedication to the region, Nelson Freeman, says discussions are underway, including the possibility of closing the border with Guinea until the situation is resolved.
Now, while we're here, sanity is maintained to this border. As a matter of fact, we are consulting central government. We are recommending that the border points remain closed until central government can handle these matters.
Meanwhile, some political analysts in Liberia have criticized the delay in deploying state security forces, calling on the government to take a firmer democratic stance with Guinea.
You should have securities at those different points because you know that those are vulnerable openings. You put your citizens at risk. Some people are running, and that should not be happening in this time and age.
The Liberian government is urging residents to remain calm, saying talks are ongoing with the Guinean authorities to find a peaceful resolution to the border dispute. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and online at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Senegal's National Assembly, by a majority vote, adopts a bill to strengthen penalties against homosexuality. One person sustains a gunshot wound as Liberia and Guinea border dispute escalates. Still ahead in the news, Ghana and South Korea signed 3 strategic agreements, including on maritime security. Armed attacks against military formations surge in countries of West Africa, such as Nigeria, Niger, and Benin. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. President John Dramani Mahama has reaffirmed Ghana's commitment to strengthening ties with the Republic of Korea following bilateral talks with Korean President Lee Jae-myung. The meeting ended with the signing of 3 memoranda of understanding focused on maritime security, climate change cooperation, and digital technology. The agreements mark a significant step in deepening cooperation between the 2 countries. Nadiri Tete reports.
The meeting reaffirmed the long-standing partnership between Ghana and South Korea, built on shared democratic values, respect for human rights, and cooperation on global issues. President Mahama noted that both countries have continued to work closely in multilateral institutions such as the United Nations, often advancing similar positions on international matters. The president also highlighted expanding cooperation in agriculture and agribusiness through initiatives supported by the Korea International Cooperation Agency, KOICA.
Our cooperation with KOICA has been very important, especially in relation to the increase in rice production, the K-Rice Belts project. We're looking forward to the availability of the high-yielding rice varieties so that we can increase rice consumption, because we want to reduce the amount of rice we import.
President Mahama further indicated that Ghana is looking forward to signing a visa waiver agreement with the Republic of Korea for holders of diplomatic and official passports.
This will make it easier for exchanges between our 2 countries.
He also pointed to opportunities for increased trade and investment through the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, whose secretariat is based in Accra, positioning Ghana as a gateway for businesses seeking access to the wider African market. For WDR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
Crossing over to the Sahel, the Malian army said it repelled an attack targeting one of its formations in Gao, situated in the north of the country. In Wednesday's statement, a farmer explained that the attackers used shells and a kamikaze drone. The latest attack followed similar incidents in Niger, Benin, and Nigeria, where in both cases several soldiers lost their lives. Usman Umar reports.
In a statement, the General Staff of the Armed Forces indicated that the attack, attributed to armed terrorist groups, occurred early Wednesday morning. According to the same source, the shelling and the kamikaze drone targeted a military base. While there was no loss of life or major material damage, the army has launched an investigation to determine any possible casualties outside the camp. The army is also unable to tell whether Wednesday's attack in Gao was a reprisal. According to Farmer, it carried out a precision airstrike the previous day against an armed group northeast of the town of Diafarabe in the Mopti region. Faced by surging attacks, the Malian army reaffirmed its determination to secure populations and their property throughout the national territory. In the first week of March alone, 12 military posts altogether were targeted in Niger, Nigeria and Benin, resulting in the deaths of nearly 100 soldiers. The attacks have been blamed on JNIM, the Islamic State and Boko Haram fighters. The motive behind this resurgent trend is yet to be clearly understood, but regional security experts are urging for intelligence sharing and a more unified strategy by states to counter terrorism.
Usman Omar filed that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
WADR's Nadiri Tete in Accra, the Ghanaian capital, is standing by with today's press review highlighting news by national dailies and online portals.
Greetings, welcome to the newspaper review segment. We'll start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. Oil price spikes from Iran conflict. Remove taxes on fuel to cushion consumers. That's according to analysts. Gamanche and others meet King Charles at Commonwealth Day in London, and government revises public land sale structure. That's it for the Daily Graphic newspaper. The Chronicle newspaper. Paramount Chief probes land guards activities in the Adar traditional area. Also, government unveils watertight land reforms to boost revenue. And US strikes Nigeria from Ghana. That's a question the minority is asking and demanding some answers. Also here, the Daily Guide newspaper front page. Minority quizzes government over US airstrikes from Ghana. 2 Ghanaians injured in Dubai drone attack. And over 500,000 youth apply for security jobs. Mahama pushes for visa waiver with South Korea. The Daily Post front page. Ghana and South Korea signed 3 MOUs on maritime security, climate change and digital technology. Also here, government introduces sweeping reforms to strengthen transparency in public lands administration. The Overseer. Gender Minister pushes for justice for women and girls. Also here, corruption fight has improved under Mahama. That's according to a CAS Gimpa survey. And address the concerns of road users. Vice President Jane Opoku-Agyeman tells Roads Minister. The Daily Democrat newspaper. Mahama and South Korea presidents hold bilateral talks. Amnesty chief inspectors urge IGP to enforce appeal court judgment. Also here, Bank of Ghana governor explains strategic diversification of gold reserves. We'll wrap up with the National Enquirer newspaper. Main headline here, NPA reaffirms there is adequate fuel in stocks and stable market conditions. That's it for the newspaper review segment. It's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks, Nadiri Titi.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest segment this afternoon is a focus on Togo, where health authorities aim to vaccinate around 1.8 million children as part of efforts to prevent the spread of the disease. Togo had previously eliminated polio, but a new case was detected on February 20 near the border with Benin. The discovery prompted authorities to quickly organize this large-scale immunization drive. Professor Kofi Edem Jajo, president of the National Committee for the Fight Against Polio, explains the importance of this campaign.
A case of polio was recently reported in Benin. Since Benin shares a border with Togo, and in line with the World Health Organization's guidelines, Togo had to take preventive measures. Preparations for a vaccination campaign were already underway. However, during the process, Togo also detected a case of an orphan polio virus. These developments prompted authorities to accelerate efforts in order to quickly stop the circulation of the virus in the country.
What age group are you targeting in this phase of the exercise?
The campaign targets children aged 0 to 59 months, meaning all children under 5 years old.
Togo had previously announced its success in eliminating polio. How do you explain the presence, or should we say the resurgence, of this case today?
Togo had eliminated the disease, but surveillance for possible cases continues in accordance with WHO recommendations. Every week and every month, health facilities across the country report all cases of acute flaccid paralysis they observe, regardless of the cause. Whenever a child shows signs of paralysis, health workers investigate the case, collect stool samples, and send them to Ghana for laboratory testing to determine whether the polio virus is present. This surveillance system operates nationwide. It was through this monitoring process that the case in Japanga district was identified, which then prompted authorities to intensify vaccination efforts.
The campaign will take place in 2 phases. How will you ensure that vaccinated children receive the required doses to develop adequate immunity?
Under the routine immunization schedule, children receive vaccines at birth, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 14 weeks, and 9 months. The oral polio vaccine is given at birth, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, and 14 weeks, while the injectable vaccine is administered at 14 weeks and 9 months. This routine schedule already provides protection. The current campaign aims to strengthen the immunity of children even further. Some children, however, are not fully vaccinated. For example, the child involved in the recent case in Togo had received only 1 dose at birth and missed the doses scheduled at 6, 10 and 14 weeks. Through this campaign, vaccinators will go door to door in affected districts to ensure that children are vaccinated. For those who may be missed during the initial visits, there will be 2 additional days during which parents can bring their children to health centers. Vaccinators may also return to households identified through mapping as having unvaccinated children to make sure no child is left out.
Professor Kofi Edem Jajo, President of the National Committee for the Fight Against Polio in Togo. In the sporting world, we begin first with basketball as Nigeria's women's team, the Tigers, cruised to a 70-37 victory over Colombia at the FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament in France, delivering a dominant defensive performance despite already securing qualification for the global event. In football, Nigeria's under-20 midfielder Daniel Daga has been sentenced to 6 months in prison in Norway after being found guilty in a sexual assault case. Development that now casts doubt over the young player's future in the sport. And finally, in Champions League, it was a tough outing for Premier League clubs in the last 16 first legs. Manchester City lost 3-0 to Real Madrid, Tottenham fell 5-2 to Atletico Madrid, and Chelsea were beaten 3-0 by PSG, while Liverpool lost 1-0 to Galatasaray. Arsenal and Newcastle both managed draws, leaving several English sides with work to do in the second legs. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Marjo Juf for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English, and stream live at wadr.org. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is a repeat broadcast of WADR's Environment Program and Enviroscope, to be followed at the top of the hour of 1 p.m. by the second edition of our news in French, Info Chiffre. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website